Now again, like I was saying, today is one of those days where if your thinking cap hasn't been on the entire year, this day and Thursday are the days to be able to use it. Okay? Now, on your Unit 1 essay, the one that's at the top says Unit 1 essay, that is the one that we are going to be starting on. So you need to have that one in front of you. Now, as we go along and go through this of how to be able to write an essay, if you are a 10th grader and you are coming straight from AP Human Geography, this is very important. Over in AP Human, you had a thing called an FRQ, right? That is a completely different writing style compared to what we have in AP US History. What that means is if you haven't written for AP World, AP Euro, or this is your first AP class, you need to be able to be listening to this very closely so you know the difference between the writing styles, okay? Now, this essay, if you want to write at the top of your paper so you don't forget, this essay is due October 5th. So if you will write that at the top, October 5th. At midnight is the important on Turnitin. Yes.
So is it due October 5th at midnight or October 5th at 11:59?
Friday at 11:59.
Okay.
Friday at 11:59, because I know a bunch of you will submit them at 11:58. Now, with this date, and this is very important for this class, we still have 7 of you that never did Turnitin. Okay? And I get emails saying, hey, how do you do it? And I send it to you, you're like, okay, I'll do it later. And then you never do it. Okay? I can guarantee, I will bet one piece of candy on it, that next Friday, I will have somebody email me at like 11 o'clock that says, how do I do Turnitin? Okay? This is something that was supposed to be done a while ago. Plan ahead, please. I will also have handouts at parent-teacher conference that I will send home with your parent, and hopefully they will bug you about it. Okay? Now, this essay is going to be your first essay in this course. Today, we're going to do all the pre-writing, and next class, we're actually going to write about half the essay for you in class. Okay? In theory, this means you'll only have about 30 minutes of homework on Friday. Now, or Thursday to Friday. My suggestion would be to take your time over the weekend since you have a 3-day weekend, because one of the worst things you can do is leave it to the last second and get a horrible grade. On the first essay, the average is a 1 or a 2. When that goes into gradebook, that's like a 60% and a 66%. Okay? The harder you try earlier, the better I can see your writing skills for the future. Okay? Now, at the top of your paper that says Unit 1 essay, you will see your essay prompt. Okay? Now, when we go through an essay prompt, this is all you get on an LEQ. There is no helpful tips and hints. There's no vocab sheet. This is what you get that you should write about 1.5 to 2 pages of an essay. Now, when we go through and we see what we're doing, we are actually going to do annotations on it. We want to make sure that we know what we're doing. Okay? So, you don't know where that paper's been, by the way. So I wouldn't put it in your mouth.
I didn't. I just smelled it.
Okay. So I'm going to show you how I annotate this. So if you want to follow along with me, okay? Now, when I see my essay, I want to look for this word extent. And when I see it, I either want to star it or underline it. The reason why is because I want to make sure that I know that I have to evaluate at the top. Will you show him where we're at on the essay? You got it? Okay.
Yep, I got it.
Okay. So with the extent, you have to actually say, how was this a cause? Was it a great cause? Was it a small cause? That's what you're going to be looking at here. The next thing is you're going to be looking at some sort of like verbs or nouns or things like that. And in this case, it's going to be shifts in American political beliefs. Okay? Now, basically, from this, we know that we're going to be talking about shifting political beliefs, and we can probably assume it's going to be on the revolution, which it is. It's going to be a relatively easy essay. And we're going to talk about what to do with this line in a little bit. The next thing, and it's probably the most important part of this entire process, is you need to box caused. Now, on the AP exam, as well as all the history exams, there are 3 types of essays. There is a causation, which is the causes of something. There is a comparison, comparing 2 time periods or ideas. And then there's CCOT, which stands for change in continuity over time, which means how are things staying similar or different over a time period. Now, we always want to know what we are looking at and what we're supposed to focus on. So in this case, we're going to focus on the causes, and the next thing you need to do is find the proper nouns or the vocab term that you know, and that is going to be the American Revolution. It's either going to be a proper noun or it's going to be some sort of vocab term that you've heard of before. Now, the last thing that you're going to do has to do with the dates. I always bracket the dates, and here's why. On the AP exam, you must stay in this time period. Anything outside of the time period, they will not count towards your essay. You can write the most amazing essay on how the French and Indian War did this and caused the American Revolution, but if it's outside of time period, it doesn't count at all. They actually are told to disregard it completely. So we want to know what is at the beginning and the end of our time period before we write our essay. What happened in 1763? Proclamation line. Okay, so I know that anything prior to the proclamation line, I cannot use. So I can't use Pontiac's Rebellion, for example, because that's prior to this time period. Now, 1783 is a little bit harder, but you can kind of like guess or figure out what you think happened in 1783. Anybody know? It is technically the exact end. It is the Treaty of Paris. Now, if you don't know Treaty of Paris, you can also just put end of war. And that will work just fine too. Now, why is this important? With this essay, we're also going to talk about the effects of the war. We'll talk about why in just a second. However, if we're talking about effects of the American Revolution, can we talk about the Constitution? No. Okay, let's try this again. Can you talk about the Constitution? No, because it's outside the time period. So you have to make sure that you stick within this little itty-bitty time period right here. So we're going to be focusing on causes of the American Revolution. Now, one thing to note about this one line right here. Every essay is going to have a theme to it. Economics, national identity, anything along those lines. When we're brainstorming, don't be concerned about this, because more than likely you'll be able to tie it into this in some way. And we'll learn about that next class. So don't be thinking, well, is this cause of the revolution a change in American political beliefs? Next class we'll talk about how to do that, okay? Right now we're just going to focus on causes of the revolution between this time period. All right? Now you need to switch to your other paper, please. Okay. Now, you need to be on the side that says LEQ Writing Crash Course. That's the side that you need to be on here. Now, this is going to give us an overview. We're going to be working with this now. We're also going to be working on this later in the class. But for right now, we're just going to work on the causation essay. Now, at the top, you'll see causation, and it says your definition. So this is what I want you to write down for your definition. Causes and effects of an event. Causes and effects of an event. Now, what this means is basically in a causation essay, we're looking at what caused something, whether it be World War II, whether it be Andrew Jackson's presidency, anything along those lines, we're looking at causes and what happened because of that event. Last year, the DBQ was a causation essay on imperialism. So causation, in my opinion, is my favorite because it's the easiest one to do. So we're going to start easy this time, okay? Now, to be able to kind of relate this to your guys' lives, we're going to be doing parts of your own essay about something that happened in your life to kind of understand these different parts. So where it says your real life example, I want you to pick one event in your life that you could talk at least 5 minutes about. Okay? Now this could be as basic as you want, such as the first day of high school, the day I drove my first car. It could be the day that I shot the winning basket of some game. It could be my first play that I was in, anything like that. Or it could be something a little bit more serious to you. These aren't required to be shared. So if you're doing something personal to your life, that's totally okay. That's up to you. Okay? Where it says your real life example, I want you to write down what your event is. Make sure you can talk at least 5 minutes about it. So don't be like, I ate breakfast this morning. Okay? Really think about something that you could talk extensively about. Okay, ready? Go. About 10 more seconds. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that the AP exam decided to really help you guys out, and the AP exam prompt for the DBQ is going to be about your life. So you really scored on this one. Okay? Now, in the middle, or in the next section on the left, you'll see what's called a prompt stem. They always are going to help you out by having it look similar to something that looks like this. Now, if you notice, there are two blanks. One of those is your topic, and one of those is your time period. In the middle box, you'll see something that says dates. I want you to put down dates approximately, whether it be years, exact dates, whatever works best for you, of the exact approximate time period of your event. That would be from beginning of even before that happens to its end. So for example, I'm going to use my event as the first time I hit a home run. Okay? Now I would start my time period in terms of like causes and effects, right? Probably of the beginning. So the first year I played softball, 2004. Then I would think of an end. Now I could end it at that exact moment, or maybe I could end it a year later when I stopped playing softball. So my date range is going to be from the beginning of softball to the end, so 2004 to 2011. Okay, so go ahead and pick a date that works well for your event. It could also even just be a week of time. Whatever works best for you. Yes?
Can it be up to the present day?
Yes, it can be up to present, just put 2018. And then under topic, just put whatever your topic is. So if you put a really long thing, mine would just be softball for the topic, or home run. Now what you're going to do is using that stem on the left, basically just copying and pasting those words into your center box. You're just going to insert your topic and your time period. So mine would be explain the causes. I'm just going to focus on causes. Explain the causes of Miss Ray's first home run in the United States during the period of 2004 to 2011. That's all you're going to be writing in that middle box underneath where you just wrote the thing topic. You're just copying and pasting it and inserting your own stuff.
if your event didn't take place in the United States?
Then if it didn't take place in the United States, change it to where it occurred.
That doesn't apply to my event, but world tragedy.
In theory, most of you will be in America.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. It was $3 at Target, so I'm not really committed to it.
It was $3 at Target, but its sentimental value is priceless.
Yeah. All right, so what I want, and again, you do not have to share if you don't feel comfortable. So if this is like a really emotional part of your being, like you don't have to come and say it. But I want 2 volunteers who will say their prompt for me. 2 volunteers who say their prompt. Yes.
Okay. So mine was describe the extent of why the experience of your first day of high school was the way it was.
Did you use the causation prompt on the left? Okay. So is it first day of high school?
Yeah. Okay.
So we could do something like evaluate the cause of my first day in high school in the United States during the period of whatever to whatever. Okay, one more person. Okay, go ahead.
Explain the causes and consequences of my ski crash in the United States in the period of 2013 to 2015.
Cool. That's a very specific 8-push essay prompt. That'd be really hard to write on. But hey, if it's it. Okay, now when we go to write this essay about your life, we're going to brainstorm. Now when we brainstorm, and this is going to be in your far right box on that paper where it says T-chart setup, every time you brainstorm, and if you brainstorm differently, then okay, I'm going to teach you the way that we're going to use it in class. If you have a different way, then all right. But you're going to create a T-chart. So in your box, you're going to be drawing this. And with every one of the 3 types, you have 2 sides to the argument. Now, we know in our essay, what is going to be the main focus of our causation essay is going to be causes. Okay? So on the left, and you're writing this into that box to make sure that you got this, so you know it for the future. And then on the right is going to be consequences, which is a fancy word for effect. Now, this is how you are going to be brainstorming. Okay? Now, also on your chart, though, you're going to write 3 letters. And those letters are P, S, E. Now, this is specifically for brainstorming. Now, you're going to want to make sure after you've done that, by the way, you can switch over to your other paper, which is going to be the main paper we are going to be using. The one that says Unit 1 essay on it. Now, you're going to want to probably write down what each of these letters represents so you don't forget. So the P is going to represent political. Now, this could be political causes, things like laws or government systems or presidents or kings. Social is the second one. Social is things like racism, class systems, slavery, where people are living, their jobs, things like that. And the last one is going to be economic. The money, taxation, who's earning what, wages, labor systems. Okay? Now this is just for your brainstorming, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. Now when we are brainstorming terms to use in our essay, one thing that struggles is that people will use one term and then not really connect it to others or not really expand upon it by using other terms. So to practice connecting our terms, we're going to connect your guys' terms. So what I need you to do is you need to have out your little piece of paper. The one with your movie on it.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Now you need to take this movie and I want you to kind of hold it up to your forehead and look around and see the different options of movies around you. You need to be able to see movies around you. Okay. Now here's how this activity goes. Our goal, we have 44 students in this class, although we're missing a couple, so more like 42. Our goal is to be able to connect every single one of these to each other. So somehow, every movie plot is somehow going to be tied to everybody else's movie plot. Now, some of you seem like, wow, this is a really daunting task. Okay? So I'm going to simplify it a little bit. So here's how we're going to do this, and I have to look really quick. Okay. So, all of us has a piece of paper. Your goal is to find somebody else in this room that you can connect with. So here's how this game goes. I take mine. Mine's going to be Home Alone. Okay? I'm going to find somebody in the room that I can connect to. And I'm going to connect to Elf. There you are. So here's what I'm going to do. I say Home Alone connects to Elf because they are both popular Christmas movies. I walk over to the other person. I hand them mine. They put theirs on top. And now her job is to find some movie that connects to Elf. Right now. It'll get easier once you get used to the game.
You have to stand up or?
No, well, in theory, you can see it. You're not connecting. The person is.
Oh, I was just trying to
Okay, Elf connects to Frozen because
It snows in the movies.
good. So now she hands it to him. Now, once we get going on this, my suggestion would be try to have at least 3 or 4 picked out that you can connect to, because then if somebody steals yours, you have a backup plan. Okay? All right, so now we're going to go a little bit quicker. Ready to go.
Frozen connects to Spider-Man because in both movies there's a main character that has powers that they don't really understand.
That's deep.
Perfect. Oh, by the way, one thing about this game, you want to be exciting, just like JT was there, right?
Ah, heck yeah.
You don't want to be boring, okay? So, for example, my movie connects to yours because they're both movies. Yeah. Or a really common one I hear is my movie connects to yours because people die in it, all right? Or there's people in it. Maybe be slightly more creative, okay? All right. And you're going to want to be quiet so people can hear each other. Okay, go ahead.
Spider-Man connects to Iron Man because they're in some of the same movies.
Marvel Universe. Perfect.
Iron Man connects to Harry Potter because Harry Potter, they both have scars all over their faces.
Okay. By the way, some of you have much harder movies than others, so really try to start figuring some out, because when we get to the last 8 or so, it gets really hard.
Harry Potter connects to Star Wars because they both feature main characters that realize they had powers that they never had.
They're the same series.
We're going real deep.
Harry Potter and Star Wars.
And no, they are not the same series. Don't ever say that again.
I was going to go with
That hurts me on a personal level. Okay.
Star Trek because they all fly around in spaceships and shoot lasers.
Cool, that was deep.
Good job, President.
You gotta put Star Trek on top.
That's you I used.
Alright, cool. I'm ready.
Who will you choose, President?
Star Trek connects to Back to the Future because there's like some sciencey stuff.
Sciencey, good academic word.
sciencey stuff going on.
Okay, Back to the Future relates to Ferris Bueller's Day Off because they're both movies that were made in the 80s.
Good.
There's Bueller and Pitch Perfect both relate to each other because they both have good soundtracks.
I love the creativity. This is way more exciting than my other 2 classes. We had like 5 in a row that were they died.
Pitch Perfect and Phantom of the Opera relate to each other because they're both good music.
Good.
Phantom of the Opera relates to Princess Bride because there's both of them a girl, there's a creepy guy, and a guy she's actually in love with.
Good. Also, you can't, so I heard some of you advertising your movies. Please not advertise the movies, okay? Don't sit there and push it into their face so you get picked.
Okay, The Princess Bride relates to Twilight because they both love stories.
Good.
Okay. Twilight relates to Greece because there's both like two groups of people that don't like each other.
Good.
Grease relates to High School Musical because they're both musicals
In high school.
in high school.
Yes.
Titanic relates to Jurassic Park because it has a really catchy theme song.
More like a really sad theme song. My sister used to torture me with that theme song when I was like 6. She just kept playing it. Near, far. I'm not singing, I'm sorry. It's on recording. It's like near, far, wherever you are. I'm not a singer. Please don't cast me in the School Musical. Okay.
Jurassic Park relates to Lord of the Rings because they're both books before they were movies.
Good.
Lord of the Rings relates to Monty Python and the Holy Grail because there's swords in both.
Do I read this one or do I read it? Okay.
Yeah, you read Monty Python.
Okay, Monty Python connects to Aladdin because they're both like before science and things.
Science and things.
Yes.
Things is very vague. Okay.
Aladdin relates to Finding Nemo because they're made by Disney.
Technically, Finding Nemo is a Pixar movie. Okay, anyways.
Finding Nemo relates to Jaws because both have a little bit of a fishy plot.
Now, for the record, didn't you say you've never seen any of these movies before?
I got one.
You got one that he watched, okay.
No, I didn't watch it, but I'm just okay. Jaws relates to the Lion King because they both are about animals.
Yay! The fact that he hadn't seen any of these, that's actually impressive. Because the last class had somebody who'd never seen anything, and that one was way worse, so kudos.
Have you seen either of those movies, Josh?
No. Listen.
I guess The Lion King relates to. I don't know. Probably.
No advertising movies.
I really feel like distracting somewhere. It's really a universal movie.
You could do. In Batman, parents dying.
Oh, that's messed up.
That's kind of still an open
Well,
it's some of us, Miss Ray. So.
Forrest Gump, they don't have fathers.
You do that with all princesses.
Have you considered
not true, Moana.
princess movie?
Thank you.
Where were her parents?
Make way.
In the entire movie. Okay, anyways, Lion King.
Moana was a princess.
Chocolate Factory because I guess they both have family values.
Good.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory relates to Shrek because the main character is an outlier.
Good.
Outside.
Like an outlier, an outsider, an outcast.
From society. This is not racist statistics, I can't think about it.
Shrek relates to Wizard of Oz because there's a green person in it.
Technically true.
The Wizard of Oz relates to Despicable Me because they have this made up creatures.
See, all the other classes said they all have like smaller characters. Because you have the Munchkins and you have the Minions.
Despicable Me relates to Top Gun because they both involve flight.
Okay, good.
And Top Gun relates to Guardians of the Galaxy because they both involve flight.
No.
Can you do a weapon?
Huh?
Can you do a weapon? No?
Well, you just keep saying, do you have something more creative? Because he had just said the same thing as you.
Forrest Gump.
One's out. It relates because Tom Cruise and Chris Pratt are both superstars.
He tried. It's always got to be one.
Guardians of the Galaxy relates to Luke because our Lord likes and
Good.
They do talk about that a lot.
Oh yeah.
Because Star Wars. Star-Lord.
Footloose relates to Mary Poppins because they have like singing and dance.
Good.
Mary Poppins relates to Beauty and the Beast because they're both Disney.
Good. By the way, really hold up your signs. Some of you are like hiding them, and this will advertise for you.
Beauty and the Beast relates to Transformers because they both transform.
Yes. Technically true. Okay.
So Transformers relates to the Avengers because they always have a bunch of wars with somebody.
Good. By the way, you know what's the bane of all existence?
Bane.
Cell phones.
Or Bane.
Bane is more of a bane.
Okay.
Avengers relates to Hunger Games. They have a wide cast of characters.
Good. Wide cast of characters.
The Hunger Games relates to Ghostbusters because they both have scary characters in them.
Okay.
Is very disappointed in that answer.
I'm not disappointed. I think you're all wonderful students. Good. Hold them loud and proud. We're down to like the final 6 or so we're down to the last little bit. What movie do you have? I'd say you could have a really good... do you have a couple comedies around here? You have a couple of sci-fi movies?
Okay,
Everything.
it relates to Incredibles because they're both kind of superhero movies. Like they're trying to save something.
Okay. Yeah, they're trying to say something. I'll accept that. Okay, listen. Hey.
The Incredibles relates to Forrest Gump because they have someone who can run.
Yep. Okay, we're down to our final 4.
Well, relates to Indiana Jones because there's a lot of action. I like the fight ones.
I don't know if anybody's ever classified Forrest Gump as an action movie, but now it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Listening still. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, we're down to Batman and Inception. Oh, I can think of some.
That's not a very hard one.
Yeah, these two are these are easy to connect. Unless you can't find them easy to connect, then that's okay.
National Treasure and Inception are both in America.
Actually, no.
Technically, all of Inception doesn't take place except the last 30 seconds. In America, he's not even allowed to. Anyways,
Your mind is the
that's okay. All right, so the last one is Inception of Batman, which is incredibly easy.
This is so easy.
So if you can't do this.
Batman and Batman both have main characters who
Are white.
Are from the same No. Yes, thank you. They're from the same movie.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Who?
What's his face? The old dude.
Director. Oh, Michael Caine.
Yeah, Michael Caine is in both movies, and I think the director is the same. Yeah, Christopher Nolan also does both of them.
They also are both heavily influenced by the...
Now, you guys took a little bit longer. You did not break the record. You guys took 12 minutes. But we were able to, in 12 minutes, connect everybody to everything. Yay! Okay, now, one thing I would like to point out is at the very beginning of this entire activity, you guys remember when I first said we're going to connect everything, and your guys' reaction was like, oh my gosh, I can't do it, right? So the reality is that when we're connecting things, it's not as hard as it seems as long as you work to connect things piece by piece. So we're going to relate this to our essay writing, okay? When we are trying to figure out vocab terms, we're going to connect vocab terms using this idea of connecting to connecting. So let me give you an example, okay? And I'm going to move it way over your way. Okay. So keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Just stop wherever you're going to stop.
He can't see me where I'm at. Oh, okay. Okay.
Move where you're going to go. Whatever works best.
Am I blocking it for you guys?
No. Okay. So we're going to give one example of one of the causes of the revolution. So I'm going to use the example of the proclamation line. Because if you didn't know, that's one of the major causes. Now, when we're using this idea of connecting things, right, we could go into an essay and just use this one term.
What should I do?
Okay? Now, when we're connecting things, we want to see how many terms, just like in our last activity, that we can be able to connect to the proclamation line. So what other vocab terms can we use for the proclamation line?
Border.
All right, let's think vocab terms that the AP exams can be like, wow, they know something smart. But border's good, but there's a border that has a specific vocab term.
Appalachian Mountain?
Appalachian Mountain, thank you. So, we have the Appalachian Mountains. Okay. No, not right now. Okay, what else?
Can you highlight or vowel one of them?
No, because that's going to be French and Indian War.
Westward expansion.
Okay, yeah, so we have westward expansion. Manifest Destiny is not going to come up until 1837. So we will use that later. Okay, what else? Okay, anybody, any other ideas maybe?
Maybe you could talk about the Paxton Boys.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. So we have the Paxton Boys, which brings up Native Americans. Okay, what else? Yes?
Can you do like the French Indian War?
French and Indian War is going to come up right before this. So we have French and Indian. I think you guys are I think some of you are thinking of really basic terms like geography and things like that. We're thinking of like key terminology that you would have found on a Quizlet.
That is like related to the proclamation.
That is related to the proclamation line.
It's related to Britain.
Okay, so we have we have England that's going to make this proclamation. Anybody remember the name of the guy who's the king?
George.
King George is going to be on there. Okay. Yes.
It kind of brings out the colonists, their frustration with no representation.
Yeah. So no representation, right? They didn't have a decision or say in this. Now, from this one word, we were able to get all of these other terms. When we're creating our terminology list for our causes and our consequences, that's the exact same concept. As many terms as we can. So here's what you guys are going to do. You're going to start on the left-hand side, and you're going to write as many causes of the Revolutionary War using this concept of branching out, thinking of all the different terms that can connect to the different causes. So if you write taxation, what are some other vocab terms that we can use instead of taxation? So, yes, Stamp Act would be one of them. So what you're going to do is you're going to have 5 minutes to write as many causes as you can. If you'd like to work with somebody around you, that's fine too. Write down as many as you can. Ready, you go. For everything.
We're putting this on the next slide.
Yeah. Putting on the left side of your chart.
So economics,
We're going to be moving back over here, so you can... It was just for that one thing. It doesn't know where I am now.
It was a policy vote.
We've got the Boston Tea Party. We've got the Boston Massacre. We've got the Paul Revere.
Engraving.
I thought we were going to be good.
Riot Act is not in this time period. So if you're using Riot Act, somebody said Riot Act, that is not anywhere in this area. It's a cause of the revolution. The Riot Act is going to be in 92. So really far away.
I don't know terms.
Well, now it's not going to be on movies on the AP exam.
That's a bummer. They should have like a.
If you know what, they don't have one, but you could be asked on films because there's certain films that are really important. Or if you get something, last year the LEQ was on technology from 1950 to 2000, and you could have talked about the invention of the television and Technicolor. Now, one thing about it, can you use 7 years more? We'll use it for contextualization, but not for this. One minute.
Well, we just did the occupation of Boston.
But I can ask Brogan and what's like something that's for real.
You probably just put King George in there.
All right, coming together. Coming together. All right, now, if you put at least 5 items on your chart, you have achieved expectations. Okay? I saw a few people with nothing on their paper. That would be not achieving expectations. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a mega list of causes of the revolution. If you do not have these, I would suggest writing them down because this will be extremely helpful for you when we go along. Now, if you, for example, put something in political and I put it under economic, it really doesn't matter either way as long as you can defend why it's a political or why it's an economic in your opinion. Okay? All right, so we are going to start with political causes. What are some causes of the American Revolution? Okay, so Somerset decision. Now, with the Somerset decision, which you could also put under social, you also think of slaves and African Americans and their freedom. Hey, boys listening over there? I know you're learning how to tie a shoe, but...
He does it the wrong way.
Okay, make sure you're listening. All right? Okay, what else? That's the only cause of the American Revolution. What's that?
King George.
Okay, so King George. So we have oppression by King George. And by the way, if you don't have a chance to write all this down quickly, a lot of students chose to take a picture of it after class. That's okay too.
No representation in Parliament.
Okay, so lack of representation. And then he used that vocab term of parliament. Okay, what else? Yes?
All sorts of taxes like the Stamp Act and the Tea Act and the Intolerable Act.
Yep, I'm going to put it under economic. So we have the taxation down here. And along with that, you have every single one of the acts. We did also have somebody last class have a good one. They put tar and feathering. So they put retaliation against the tax collectors.
That could be a consequence.
And it could be, well, you have to think of, it could be both. And we'll talk about that.
I feel like that would be more social though. Like, still connected to
Either way. I'm doing it because it's connected.
Right.
It could be either way. Okay. Yes?
We've got the Boston Tea Party.
Okay, so what I would do is I would put that under social. So we have the Boston Tea Party. What other major event also happened in Boston? Boston Massacre. And then also during the Boston Massacre, some guy like drew something. Who was that? Paul Revere. Engraving. And then the Paul Revere engraving is an example of what starts with a P? Propaganda. And then another famous guy that created propaganda is going to be Ben Franklin, who's going to create what? Join or Die. If you don't know the name, don't put snake thing. Explain what snake thing is, and you can count it. All right. Going into any of the other sections, any causes. Pablo.
I put down cult of domesticity.
Okay, so with women, so we have expansion of women's rights. So, or wanting expansion of women's rights. So remember, they want more power, and they're going to get it through the revolution. And this is going to start with that cult of domesticity. That fancy word you can use on any essay pretty much that has the word woman in it.
Thomas Paine.
Okay, which is another propaganda. So we have Thomas Paine, who created what document? Common Sense. Okay, any other causes? Any category? Economics is a little weak right now.
Mercantilism.
Okay, the switch or wanting to go from mercantilism to capitalism. So remember, that was where they felt like they were constrained. They couldn't make a lot of money because they could only trade with England. So they wanted to be more capitalistic. There's one huge one for economy from the French and Indian War.
Didn't they not have enough money to support an army?
That's going to be in consequences. Yeah, but national debt. I think that's what you said or a bunch of people said. Yeah, so national debt after the war. So massive national debt, that's why they paid the taxes.
A lot of the colonists had smuggling businesses and lots with more British involvement.
Yeah, so that's going to go with this mercantilism as well. So this idea of wanting more money. Pablo?
I also put down the indentured servitude.
Okay, so we have labor systems down here. Now, labor systems, I will say indentured servitude is going to have a major impact from the Revolutionary War. But also, remember the fact that, again, cotton, they're wanting to trade over with England. It's part of the reason why the Loyalists are going to be mostly in the South.
How do you tell if you're writing down like if it's a causation or a cause?
However, you... A what?
How do you tell if it's a consequence or a cause?
Oh, that's what you're asking. Yeah. However you write it. Okay. And we'll explain that next class. Because national debt, did national debt come out of the Revolutionary War? Yeah. Yes. So it's however you write it. And we'll talk about that next class.
You said it's both?
Yes. As long as you're defining how it's a cause and an effect. One that you guys missed as well is impressment, which would be the British Navy. So remember, that's where they took all the seamen and made them into the British Navy. Now, this right here, if you start this as your pre-write, you are on your way to a 5. This is a great pre-write. Most of you are saying, there's no way I could have ever come up with this on my own. Your goal is to have at least 3 on each side. So 3 causes and 3 consequences. And we'll talk about that next class. Okay, now we're going to switch to the effects. Now here's what I'll let you know about the effects. They are going to be less than the causes. Okay? Now do note that this ends in 1783. So all of your effects must end at the end of the Revolutionary War. So it's going to be a little bit more think power, but go ahead and come up with as many consequences as the war as you can. Ready, go.
All right. Yeah, once again,
Sorry. Oh, that's okay.
Let's see, we get to
1776.
Cool. So
oh yeah, we didn't put declaration.
We have America being a new America.
Hi, Brian. Hi.
Oh, we had I think we connected to the just for Confederation.
Yeah. I'm just not used to him bringing things.
I know, that's
very different.
Westward extension into the Northwest Ordinance.
Now, Northwest Ordinance is in 1787, but what you can say is westward expansion past the Appalachian because there's no more proclamation line. Proclamation line doesn't exist anymore.
Westward expansion.
Movement of people, peopling is considered a social aspect. You could argue either way, though. Exactly, which is why essays almost turn into an argumentative, because you need to be able to argue why it's this. 1 minute.
You do more on the list than we do.
Was George Washington elected, or was it just appointed?
He was elected. So at first they asked him to be the king, which was immediately following. But Articles of Confederation does not allow an executive branch. So until the U.S. Constitution, there is no executive branch. There is no president.
What was he?
At the time, he was just a person in Congress. And Congress didn't even exist. He was just a politician.
Formation of Congress.
All right, formation of Congress doesn't happen to the Constitution. I called him a congressman, but I should have just said politician. Okay. We only have a few minutes left, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to open it up as well to any category. So any category of effects. Now, I did hear a couple of people that reached beyond 83, and that's okay. You're still learning how to get in the time period. If you got at least 3 on your paper, you have achieved expectations. Okay, so effects of the Revolutionary War. Raise your hand and go. Now, I will say one thing. Declaration is actually a cause, and I added that because that's actually an official cause. But there's one really big one that we could put that ends the war. Treaty of Paris. We ended the war. Okay, what else?
America becoming a country.
Okay, so that would be... I'm going to put this under social. I'll put a fancy word, national identity. Right? Because that's when you start to talk about the architecture and the literature and the creation of a common language.
There's no central government yet.
Okay, yeah. So we have Well, let's start with the big term of the government. What's the government called? Articles of Confederation. And from the Articles, because the Articles were created in 76, which is in this time period, and then you go into all the other stuff. No executive branch, no ability to form. You could go through every single one of the negatives. The only one that you cannot use is the Northwest Ordinance, because Northwest Ordinance was not created until 1787.
Would it create the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists from the Articles of Confederation?
Yeah, I'll accept it. I think you could argue the point. So you have, make sure it's only anti and the regular Federalists. Do not use Democratic Republicans. Okay, I know I spelled it wrong. I'm sorry. Yes.
National debt.
Yes, good. National debt. And again, that's where you tie in the Articles of Confederation. Hey? Say that one more time.
Trade was lost with Europe?
I wouldn't say Europe. I would say trade is lost with England. So, trade lessens with England, but a major political effect is going to be, now we have foreign alliances with what two countries? France and Spain. Even if it's for a short time.
We didn't have enough money before we went.
Yep. So this is going to be national debt and then no army. And that's it.
Is Remember the Ladies?
Not Remember the Ladies was going to be after, because Abigail Adams has to become the first lady, which is until like 92. But what we can do is we can do more rights for women, and you could bring in Betsy Ross, you could bring in Molly Pitcher, and you can also bring in the term Republican motherhood, because that's already begun at this time.
Can you do Daughters of Liberty?
Yep. I was just about to write that. And then motherhood does not have 3 O's. And then also Daughters of Liberty, which also over here on cause could be a cause too. I'm going to write one more, and because then we got to be done. Is going to be, remember, Somerset decision now frees the slaves or causes them to move. That causes sexualism. Remember, the North is going to treat them differently than the South. And then also one more is going to be the treatment of loyalists. Remember, treatment of loyalists, they burned everything down, so they had to move over into England. Any other main ones for the bell rings? So this is pretty much, it's a pretty good. Okay, keep your stuff. We will write next class. Have a great day. No homework. No homework.
Yes!